Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to meet you and see you today. My name's Mike. I'm one of the co-founders here at Waybook. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today. I normally always love doing webinars with Waybook customers like yourself and business owners looking to scale their business, but today is different. Today I have a whole level of excitement like I've not felt in a really long time. And I cannot wait to share and show you through that today. So as more and more people are coming into the session, this looks like it's going to be quite a packed session. So thanks for joining us. I'd love to just get a sense of who's here, where you're from, what you're doing. So please do post in the chat who you are, maybe your name and your location, and we can see how many cities and countries we can tick off across the world. Also, throughout the session, there's lots of different ways of getting in touch and staying in touch with us. Nobody wants a full monologue from me for 40 minutes or so. So please do jump in. You've got the Q&A panel. So if you've got any questions that come up throughout the session, please do drop it in the Q&A. We also have a couple of polls coming your way. And of course, we've got the chat, which I can see some of you lovely people messaging in already. So who have we got here? We've got Isabel from London. We've got Pat from Ohio, Tiago from Brazil. We've got Sean from Malta, Veronica from Pennsylvania, Joe from Chicago, Crystal from Illinois. Oh, we've got Sri Lanka. Okay, it's getting good. It's getting good. We're heating up. We're going a bit more international there. For those of you who can't tell from the accent in my voice, I am from the UK, and I'm currently here in quite a dark London, but I've just had a lovely cycle through a slightly rainy city, which has been beautiful. So without further ado, let's get going on today's session. You know why you're here. I know why you're here. And it is, of course, to introduce probably the most exciting feature I think we've introduced yet. This is Waybook AI. Now, AI, as you'll know, is kind of sweeping the internet and sweeping the narrative about all of the possibilities and excitement that are in store for us. So whilst I'm kind of introducing this session, I've just thrown a poll for you to get a little bit more of a sense of what sort of work you do and also how familiar you are with both Waybook and AI in general. So you can fill that out now. Now, what we're going to be going through this session is we're literally going to be focusing on, firstly, why did we even look at integrating AI, artificial intelligence, into Waybook? What is it? How does it work? What does it do? And then we're also mainly going to spend most of our time just playing here. So for those of you who have carved out this time in your work day, we really appreciate that. But now we're going to have a bit of fun whilst we're also learning a little bit more about the AI feature in Waybook. Now, by playing, I've been playing with this all day, every day for about a month and a half now. So I'm definitely going to need your interaction and some suggestions of things that we can create on the fly relevant to your business. Then we're just going to give a bit of an insight into what the future of Waybook AI is. You'll notice that this is actually not yet released on Waybook. There are some people who already have access to Waybook AI, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to get access to that at the end of the session. But it's still super early. It will be rolling out to all accounts in the next couple of weeks, but we have big plans over the coming weeks and months for Waybook AI. So we're going to give you a little bit of an insight into that. So just looking at the results of our poll as they're coming in, the vast majority of us here, 71% are in management and strategy, 20% are in operations, no one in HR. That is crazy. And then department specific, you can see I kind of ran out of options to put there. The vast majority of us, 43% are from businesses between 20 and 50, with some people coming in from the 13%, a few businesses here between 50 and 200, and actually a third of us are also in smaller businesses as well. Now, everybody here so far is using Waybook. We've only told people about this webinar who are using Waybook. 75% of you are, yes, I love it. And 25% of you are getting started. So welcome to the 25% of you. And most of you are somewhat familiar. A few of us are very familiar and have already been playing with AI. And some of you are at the starting blocks. So thank you so much for filling that out. It will help me It will help me kind of navigate a little bit where we're going. I've just seen something in the chat saying that I'm not audible. I think I might be. Someone else can hear me. Thank you, guys. So I'm really sorry, Kumod. I think it might be you. And Elle, who is in the background there, the fantastic Elle that many of you would have spoken to. I'm sure you can jump on and help Kumod there if that's okay. So let me just take a little bit of a second as to why we are focusing on AI. Now, we all know that Waybook exists to fulfill the mission of creating this single source of truth. As a business, we've previously grown and scaled a few other companies, and we learned that anytime we added another 5, 10, 15 people, chaos ensued, whether we liked it or not. The knowledge were kind of disseminated across the team. We didn't quite know who had access to what, who knew what. We lacked consistency, and we ended up basically just being overpriced call centers, answering the same repetitive questions of our team internally. So even though we were quite process driven and had really good documentation, we actually had it in Google Docs, we still lacked this consistency of being able to say to our teams and to ourselves, this is how we operate the business, and this is where to look at for the information. So Waybook exists to create this single source of truth, so we can onboard our team more effectively, stay consistent, and actually focus on the business rather than being wrapped up into the whirlwind of the day-to-day. So we're all here for the same reason. We want this knowledge nirvana. And many of you have already experienced massive successes from having your knowledge within your Waybook. We see on average about people onboarding their new employees in about 20% of the time that they used to, which is madness, one of my favorite stats. That's not just 20% of the time it takes for them to get up to value, but it's also 20% of the management time, so saving 80% of that overhead. We're seeing about 95% reduction in the repetitive questions, anything from how do I book annual leave to where are the logo files to how do I deal with this customer complaint. We're also seeing a massive improvement on operational consistency. So we're always speaking to customers that are saying, our Trustpilot score has gone up because actually we're just dealing with things really consistently. And we also work with lots of businesses that have various different compliance requirements, there we are, a little rhyme for you. So whether you're HIPAA compliant or ISO compliant, Waybook has enabled you to actually create these SOPs to just be really consistent, and ultimately enabling us as senior leaders to focus on scaling the business rather than holding all of the knowledge in our head and just constantly treading and running on the spot to stay in the same place. And of course, you can take my word for it, but I know the audience I'm speaking to here, you're all feeling that. These are some of our lovely faces of Waybook businesses that have had a great experience. But there is a challenge. Now, the challenge is, even though we know we want to get to this knowledge nirvana, we want to centralize this knowledge, we want to get it out of our minds of the senior leaders and into matter. There's a few things we hear quite consistently. Firstly, it's all up here. All of our knowledge kind of exists in our minds. And I must confess, pre-Waybook, I was the worst person of just assuming that if it was in my head, everybody knew it. And of course, that's how we raise an invoice, because that's what I think is the best way of doing things. Another challenge that we find, yeah, it's dangerous in my head. Another thing we find is that we're too busy. This was an amazing thing that I didn't even realize when we started Waybook, that the people who need Waybook the most, that really want to centralize so they can scale, are sometimes too busy to create the knowledge. They're saying, yes, I know I need to centralize this because it will help me, but they don't always have the kind of couple of hours to invest now that will save a couple of hours every day moving forward. We also know that many Waybook users suffer with the challenge of there actually being too much to do. And I think that's because we have this vision of our Waybook being this single source of truth, this oracle of how we run the business, this operations manual, the playbook. But actually, if we don't have anything to start with, that can actually be quite intimidating. Now, the reality is we don't need to have 100% completion. And the real secret is we'll never get to 100% completion. Your Waybook is a living, breathing, iterative document. But actually, as soon as we identify and create one piece of knowledge, it's there, it's valuable, it's providing that. And then the final thing, and I know there's a lot of founders in the room, so I'm going to be the one that says this. Quite often, we just don't know what to do. We don't know the best practice. We don't know how to actually, the best way to schedule an Instagram post, or actually what policy we should do for work from home. And sometimes it's difficult to actually identify the unknown unknowns and realize what we don't know. So how can we even start to centralize that knowledge? Now, when we started building Waybook a few years ago, we have actually addressed this. And many of you have found that in your Waybook account by tapping into the hundreds of templates of policies, of procedures, of best practice. And also, when you start your Waybook account, you will, of course, get your templated structure that suggests what sort of content you should be creating and kind of give you a bit of a map and a plan to create it. And of course, increased features around your team collaboration to make sure that actually, okay, I don't need to create all of this. Let me tag in the marketing exec who's going to do the brand guidelines and vice versa. But also we've had these Waybook process consultants that have just been constantly booked, and we're always scaling our capacity for founders and operations managers that are basically saying, look, we need this knowledge centralized. Can we just borrow one of your team to work around our business, do the interviews, centralize the knowledge, and give us the playbook back? So we're doing this, but we want more. We always want to be better. We always want to put that power into your hands. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Imagine a world where that knowledge was created for you. That instead of us staring at that blank document thinking, I really want to create a policy for this, or Googling around trying to find the best way of doing these small, intricate procedures. Imagine if it was ready for you. If it was in your Waybook account, perfectly written, based on best practice, really well structured, and essentially then just gave you the starting off point, the jumping off point to say, this is a fantastic start. Now let me customize this to my business. Now let me think about what I'm going to do slightly differently, or how we're going to optimize that knowledge. In scaling our businesses, it's not because we're not clever. It's not because actually we don't know what to do, or even we don't have the motivation to do it. It's sometimes just the organization of having all of these things together. And Waybook AI is the ability for you to almost start with something so we can get to that value as quickly as possible. And this is what we're going to show you today. So I'm now just going to share my screen, and I'm basically just going to show you what Waybook AI is. Now, essentially, it is the latest AI technology. We're plugging in with a few of the kind of APIs available for AI. It's all trained on the best practice, and it's going to continue to get better. We've designed the Waybook AI to generate 4 specific types of document. One of them is a standard operating procedure. So this is what we expect most people will be creating within their Waybook. What is a specific procedure for an activity that you're looking to centralize and delegate? Secondly, it's also looking at SOP outlines. Now, sometimes we want an SOP and we actually don't know what to do, so that starting point is great. But sometimes we actually just want to look at the steps and the stages we need to create. So we can then start to ask ourselves the question of what should we be doing within our business? The third type of document is an internal document. Now, this can be anything from a piece of knowledge to a policy or anything like that. And then we also have a more generalized document. So the generalized document can essentially be a type of document that doesn't fall into one of the previous categories, but you have a specific idea of what you want it to look like. So without further ado, let's play. So I'm going to jump into my demo account now. Now I'm going to ask you folks in the chat to really help me out in making this something special. So please do use the chat. Keep your questions coming in the Q&A. So for those of you in the chat, can you please share with me what you think is one of your, it doesn't have to be the most, but one of the most valuable pieces of knowledge or documentation or SOP that you've centralized for you or for your business? So any kind of SOP that you've created. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Now, just to show you what your Waybook AI is, you've all seen the dashboard. We all know how this is structured. So if you toggle over into your kind of edit mode here, you'll notice that you have a few different ways of creating content into your Waybook. Now, some of this has already been released and others of it are coming very soon. Now, you'll notice here that when we're editing a document, we can add, of course, a new step, a new test. We can import and browse the templates, add collaborators, but you'll see here the golden button. We should make that golden. The golden button of that AI writer. So once we get to the AI writer, we can either add it into an existing document. So if you're looking for just one piece of knowledge which you're adding into the step, or we can, of course, create a new document within that subject and say, okay, this new document which I'm creating, we're going to have this as employee health care. Okay, cool. So we've got a great example there from Vanessa. So the employee health scheme. So employee health scheme. Okay, so this is a specific SOP on how to create to onboard staff into the employee health scheme. And please do keep your other suggestions coming because we will use them very soon. So we're opening up into this empty document here, and I now don't quite know what to do. So I'm going to open up Waybook AI. Now we can choose from these different types of documents. My understanding from what Vanessa said here is how to onboard staff into our employee health scheme. So we can do that as a standard operating procedure. And it's about, so what is this about? How to, so we can say procedure to onboard staff into or onto the employee health scheme. So we basically want it to describe the essential, the core steps we should take to collect the information of employees and onboard them into and input them into the employee health scheme. Now, Vanessa, I don't know what type of business you are, but the more context you can give here, the more specificity you can give here, the better it is. Now, it's important to note on this one, so let's say for a marketing agency, just because it was in front of me. Now, it's important to note for this one that as we're generating this, there will be a lot of specific information that we want within this procedure that Waybook AI wouldn't know. For example, we don't know what employee health scheme you're currently on, and there will be different setups that you can create and different activities that is relevant for the different employee health schemes. So this will be a little bit more general in terms of kind of gathering the information, what to gather, how to put it in, and then of course you can jump in and add the necessary links and specificity. So you'll see here, Waybook AI, like magic, is writing out the core structure of that documentation. So we've got the fact that the purpose of this document is to outline the steps. We're then saying we need to gather the necessary information. We've got name, address, contact, bank details, blah, blah, blah. Input the employee information into the employee database, confirm the accuracy of the information entered. So what we're going to do, we're happy with this. If you're not happy with that, you can go back, you can restart it, you can actually change your prompt within it. But let's start with this, and we can now pull this in as a document. Now, there's a few things we need. We've put that as a new step, so I'll delete that one. Now, of course, we might want to just, and I'll show you some examples where it's less ambiguous. I've started on an interesting one here, which requires a lot of specificity. So I'll start with this. We can now just pull this, split the step, and of course you can do this on any of your documents. So split the step here, gather the necessary information. Okay, we like this. Now, if we want to say there are specific pieces of information, we can of course take that information out there. And you can start to change this into what your strong Waybook documentation will be. So, you know, yes, we've got the bank details there. We've got the contact information there. And of course, you can use all of the different types of information that you need and types of node within your Waybook to make that super specific. Now, when we've got the employee information, we can now say the employee database. So with the employee database, Waybook AI doesn't know what that is. Now, there's a chance that if you're in your prompt, you specify the healthcare provider you're using and the employee database that you're using, then actually it could even pull in specific information on how you do that. But what you also might do is then link that to your employee database, or of course do an internal link. If we've got a piece of information here on the employee database, we can essentially say, yeah, that is the document about our employee database. And then you make that into a Waybook link here. So actually all of your documents and your information are really nicely connected together so people can really follow that SOP. Now, this is essentially a kind of quick insight into creating Waybook AI, but let's roll through it again and have a look at a few other examples. So one I did earlier, which I was actually working with a Waybook client who is a ridiculously amazing and fast scaling plumber in New Jersey, a lovely guy called Michael. He essentially said one of the SOPs he wants to centralize, this is a big business, they're scaling fast, but it's all in their heads, is to how to assess a new job. Now he says when he onboards a new plumber, a lot of people will shadow other plumbers, they'll go to different jobs, they'll kind of learn how to interact with customers and clients. But what he wanted was an SOP for assessing a new client's job, describing the best practice, or let's say the procedure for meeting a new client and assessing the plumbing work required for a plumbing company. Now you can also say what you want, including how to interact with the customer and what information to take. Now, generating that content, you'll see as we go through this, and we'll play with this just a few more times, you'll start to see that I can put in more and more specific information. The specificity in this really improves the AI and it gets more and more specific. So here we are on that procedure we've just asked, meeting a client, introduce yourself and the plumbing company, explain the reason for your visit, ask the client if they have specific issues that they'd like to address, and ask them if they'd like any other services. Assess the plumbing work required, ask the client to explain the problem in detail, conduct the visual inspection, ask the client questions about them, identify the components of the system, Now, these are the kind of fundamental steps that you'll go through. And again, we might want to split them out into different stages, but here is where you can start to say, okay, well, when we meet a new client, this is how we introduce ourselves. When we're introducing ourselves, you might actually want to put in a specific script. So make sure we're using our tagline, make sure we're making them feel comfortable. Now, as we're moving through here, it's all about interacting with the customer. So we can start to add in things like, what's the purpose of that? This is about making our customers feel at ease. Let me just put at ease. Now, of course, for those of you familiar with the Waybook AI UI, you're able to really enhance the look and feel of your document simply. So say, for example, we want to put in an image to make that really specific. We can just start to pull in a plumbing image, for example, and put that directly into your Waybook. Now, of course, this is just making your documents way more accessible and easier to look and feel. Now, the last thing we'd recommend when you're creating a procedure like this is actually you can add in a new test. So new client assessment. Now, we might say, how do you introduce the company? And we can, put a few different taglines. Let's just say option 1 and option 2. And actually, that might be the one question we want people to look at. Now, when we publish that document, of course, we'll set up the access, and anybody who has access to that will now get a notification to say, hey, Ali, or hey, Vanessa, there's a new way that we assess the job. So people can go through, they can read, watch and review that documentation, look at the information, and then they'll get to the new client assessment and say, okay, well, how do we introduce the company as option 1? And of course, they will then know that they're up to speed. And you will also know on the report section that those people are essentially exactly what they need to know. Now, there's a few other bits that you can use the Waybook AI for, and I will navigate back to that now. One thing that's been recently introduced into Waybook, which really pairs with this nicely, is our search reports. So if I search for insurance, I actually know for a fact there's no insurance documentation within here at all. So if I'm now looking at our search insights, I can see, yeah, people are searching for logo and there's results for that. But actually, we don't have any information on insurance, and our team are searching for it. So now we might want to create an internal document about how to manage insurance claims, for example. So let's do insurance claims, or let's do expense claims, because it's a little bit more obvious. Insurance might be a little bit more vague. I don't even know what I'd be asking for there. So let's say instead of doing the specific SOP, let's do an outline for an SOP. And then we'll say about claiming expenses, describing the process an employee has to follow with guidance in order to claim expenses for a let's see if I've got a specific example here. Okay, I can't see any one specific business, so let's say a chocolate shop, because it is nearly chocolate o'clock here at the UK. So again, you'll see that this is the outline for an SOP. So this will give you a slightly different structure to what we saw before. When we're asking for an SOP, we're asking for its best guess in terms of what is the best practice of how we raise that, how we kind of do all different things. And just to give you this an example, we saw the specific example of how a plumber can greet a new client and go in. We've also done this for how to lock up a chocolate shop. I've used that example a few times. We've even done it with a customer earlier on today that runs a big chain of massage therapists. And they said to me, one of our processes was how we do draping, something I genuinely had no idea was a thing. For those of you who do, you clearly go to more spas than I do. But essentially, draping is the specific way that a massage therapist will put the towel over the bed and over the client. So we asked it to create a draping procedure, and Waybook AI knew what that was. It knew best practice around it. It knew what questions to ask the client to make sure that they're comfortable within it. And that was on the specific create an SOP. The alternative, which we've just done here, is the SOP outline. Now, many people ask us, what's the best practice? What's a great SOP to look like? This is essentially it. So we can now add this to a document. On expense claims, we always recommend starting with a purpose of the SOP and a scope of the SOP. So this, again, isn't the information, but it's the outline. So always remember, so employees can get reimbursed. That's a boring bit. And then essentially it's like, what are the required materials? It's the claim form and the receipts. What are the steps? Obtain and get out the claim form, collect the receipts, submit to the manager. So we might say, okay, this is the actual process we want them to follow. So let's call this the introduction of the SOP, expense claims. And then this one here is essentially the individual steps. So I'm now going to create this filing claims. And essentially we've got these in these three individual steps. Now we might want to make that a specific step, or we might say, right, there is a claim form. It's either here and we can link to a digital form, or of course we can do a / there and search file and attach the form to that there. We can also import a specific screenshot to show actually what that file looks like, where they can put it in, things like that. Now, again, we can link to a folder. We can actually show who to send the expense receipts to, and then submit the claim to the manager. Now, again, we can do that information here. This is essentially the process for us to follow without the specific best practice. So it gives you the flexibility and freedom to ask what's the best way for you to do that within your business. And all you need to do is just write the specific, document or knowledge or the person to speak to. Now, what we also see a lot of people do after this is they'll create another document or another step. So I can just click on new step here. And this is kind of, you might call it execute. Some people call it execute. And essentially you'll have a checklist, which are the steps of the process. So finding the form, filling the form, sending receipts. Now, I do this, for example, with payroll is a great example for me. Now, I have an internal document which has the process of how to do payroll. But every single month when payroll is done, they don't need to go through the knowledge and bring themselves up to speed. But what they do is they go to the execute tab and they'll essentially say, yeah, I've paid that person, I've paid that person, I've paid that person. And it's just a really great way for somebody to have an ability to go through the document whilst they've actually got that kind of knowledge and best practice aligned. So I'm now just going to scan the chat. If anybody wants me to try out a specific SOP that they're looking for, we've got like policy and attendance, salary circulation, employee engagement, birthday pop-ups and work anniversaries. Let's do that. We all love a birthday. So actually, let's see what the best practice is for team birthdays. Now, I have, like always with Waybook AI, I have no idea what's going to come up here. We've got office cleaning, Glenn. I'll come to that. That's a great example. So let's create an internal document about team birthdays. Now, what might we want to centralize in team birthdays? Describing the kind of describing the allowances. The process of celebrating. When you say process of celebrating, it really kind of sucks some of the fun out of it, doesn't it? The allowances, the process of celebrating, and the core things to remember when celebrating a team birthday. For, again, let's do a plumbing company. Now, I must say, and you'll see this as you play with this more, that's a particularly bad request, because I started this without really knowing what I'm looking for, without really understanding what I want. So let's just see whether Waybook AI can actually make some sense out of my total nonsense. So the cool thing to remember here is actually we're using Waybook AI for a purpose, right? It's basically to get some knowledge out of your head, to start with something rather than a blank page, and to speed up that process of centralizing your knowledge. Putting lots of things into it just to play with it almost means that it's going to confuse it a little bit more. It's absolutely fine, and it is fun to play with. I've definitely been playing with it. But the more we use it for specific needs that we're looking for, the stronger it gets and the better the results. So here we go. This is what Waybook AI thinks that we should have as our internal policy against birthdays. So the allowances, and you'll see here, by the way, because I was specific about the things that I wanted, I asked for allowances. I asked for the process of celebrating. I asked for the core things to remember. So if you want something specific, ask Waybook AI and it will answer. So the allowances, employees are entitled to 1 day off for their birthday. They can choose to use their day off or take their birthday as an extra day of vacation. A team celebration is allowed, however, it must be approved by the employer and should be kept within the budget. So there, if we're doing that, I love this. I'm gonna do this. Waybook team on the call, new policy right here. Let's say budget of $80, $50, whatever you want in there. So this is how you'll just simply customize that. Now, if we started the process of saying, oh, we need a document about team birthdays, I wouldn't even know what we need to think about. So the fact that actually we've got the budget line that we just put in, amazing, sounds great. And the process of celebrating is to schedule the celebration in advance, let's say 2 weeks in advance. And then essentially we can say decide on the theme and plan the activities accordingly. So for that sort of thing, for example, we might want to have theme options and put in the theme options that have worked particularly well or badly. Of course, this is when you can start to make your documents look nicer. So say we want a call out box, we can actually put in, you know, a nice light bulb there to say, okay, ice cream cake is always a favorite. That's for you Americans on the call. We don't really have ice cream cake in the UK, sadly. So this is some really good examples of an internal document. So we've done an SOP with the best practice. an SOP outline, which gives us the kind of high level things to explore and the kind of pieces to put in. And then we've got the document, which is essentially the team birthdays or a policy or something like that. Now Glenn has asked for office cleaning. Please, we've got time for probably a couple more examples here, so please do put something in, perhaps a policy that you have, a procedure that you're looking for, something that saved you loads of time, and we'll create that. So for Glenn, let's do office cleaning. Now, office cleaning again could be lots of things. We could, smoking breaks, Vanessa. If people are vaping, surely they just vape at the desk or on wherever they're standing, right? But okay, we'll come to that. That's a good one. Actually, this gets a bit political, doesn't it? So okay, let's do office cleaning first. So we're gonna do office cleaning. Now again, this can be an SOP for the cleaners of the office, or it could be how we manage the cleaners or how we manage the cleaning company. So again, how the direction we take on this will really change what knowledge that Waybook AI will create for us. So it's important for us to bear in mind what we're trying to get out of it when we ask. But for this, let's do a standard operating procedure document about office cleaning, describing the procedure an office cleaner should take when starting a shift. Let's be really specific. Starting a shift, cleaning the office and finishing the shift. For let's say a 3-story office building. Let's say bank. Don't know if there's any 3-story banks on the call, but why not? That's a bit more interesting. Okay, so we're going to just do one more after this. So please do let me know if you've got any other questions coming in. I know Elle is in there asking and answering a few different things. So start a shift for the office cleaners, gather the necessary supplies, and again, it's done its best guess at actually what most cleaners have: cleaning cloths, vacuum cleaner, mop, bucket, and chemicals. Change the appropriate attire, check in with the supervisor, and locate the cleaning checklist. And let's put that in. I like it. So what we're going to do here, we can actually pull this up and say start the shift. Again, you can always split your step to pull that through here. So let's say we'll call this the cleaning process, and then we'll do another split here, which is finishing the shift. Now what we're able to do, so one thing I notice here, this is kind of the core bits, but remember we can start to add bits into here. So we can add in an image of the appropriate attire, or a link to order the uniform, or whatever that may be. We can add in images and checklists and things like that. And the other thing we said here, locate the office cleaning checklist. Right, so say, for example, we've got a cleaning checklist that might live on a different document. Of course, we can go back into the Waybook link, internal linking, and we can say, okay, this is the cleaning document. So when somebody's on there, they'll click that, it will take them to the checklist as they go. So that is office cleaning. Right, I'm gonna start to wrap this up, folks, because you might be able to tell I just love it. I just love this so much. When I was about 8, I got a Tamagotchi. I don't know if you folks remember them. And they're basically like the little first ever digital pets in your pocket. As an 8-year-old, I thought I was living in the future. I was like, surely technology will never beat this. We'll never get better than this. We've tapped out. And I don't think I've ever been as excited about the future and technology as I was as that 8-year-old with the Tamagotchi. Until today, until playing with Waybook AI and all of the possibilities it brings. So I hope you kind of get some of that excitement, and I'm not just talking to myself here and everyone's just got me in the background thinking, who's this guy? So we instead of smoking breaks, because Vanessa, I will do that one afterwards, and I'd love for you to do the same and show me. But Kumud here has a good one that he's looking forward to more things like attendance management, salary management, and leave management. Okay, that is a good one. So let's do salary review. Okay, Kumud, you've really, you're the sensible one. This is what happens when I'm left to my own devices here. So let's do salary management. Let's create an internal document. So I'm going to try and create a document for a manager to conduct a salary appraisal. So about salary review process, describing how a manager can conduct a fair and consistent remuneration review with their team, including questions, criteria, and rules for a I always want to say chocolate shop, which is so ridiculous. Let's have anyone give me a first business, their business, whatever it is, in the chat. If not, it's going to be chocolate shop. If no one can give me a business in 10 seconds, we're going for chocolate shop. Oh, I don't want to do chocolate shop. Okay, let me. Banana sorting plant. Sean, okay. I feel like I walked myself into that one. Let's do that. Right. Sean's banana. Yeah, we are, Jim. So Sean's banana sorting plant. We're here we go. Sorry, Veronica, thanks for trying to keep us organized there with the technology firm, but I feel like Sean just pipped us to the post there. Okay, so now this is a general document again. So this is actually going through the high level procedures. The last thing I want to show you of actual actual specificity. So let's say you've created a document. Now this could either be a really specific SOP or an outline. We might say, okay, look, it's ask questions. Oh, actually, I kind of don't know what questions to ask. That's absolutely fine. Let's create another document. So let's create an internal document about the questions to ask an employee during a salary or remuneration review, describing the consistent set of questions to understand performance and assess a fair level of pay for, yes, a banana sorting plant. You've got me, Sean. Okay, this is the last one. So the key information here is, once you've created a document, sometimes we actually can just go to the next step and add another layer of specificity. So perfect. We have here the questions to ask. This is amazing. These are exactly the questions that we want to ask. So let's just make that a questions column. We can actually split this document here. And so essentially we're saying here, ask questions. Once we get to that questions, we say questions for salary negotiation. Now, again, what we do is we publish that, we make that accessible to our managers only. So we'll put it into the management group. A manager will come on, they'll go through that process, they'll understand what it is, but also as a reader, they'll then be able to say, oh God, I'm about to go into a negotiation. Fine, here I am. Here are the questions that I'm asking. Instantly, we're not wasting any time on actually asking the questions, rethinking it, searching your notes. You can just search on your Waybook, you search on that, you search in Slack, whatever you want, and it brings it up instantly. So that consistency is going to be clear and across the board. Ladies and gentlemen, I could literally sit here all day and play with Waybook AI. And I love having calls with all of you. And for any of you that I've jumped on a call with, like Josh, I've just seen Josh on the chat. Hey, Josh, we've had a call in the last couple of months. I love to chat with you. So please do booking calls with me and the team. This is a bit different because it's very much a monologue, so forgive me on that. But Josh raises a very good question. How do you get hold of Waybook AI? That is my next point. But before we do that, let me just share a little bit about our thoughts into the future. We've got about 2 minutes left now. So firstly, what we're doing is we're continuing to improve on that best practice. And what's going to change on your experience with Waybook AI is we'll be occasionally asking you questions about, how was this? Was it good? Did you get what you want? What more do you want? And soon you'll be able to reformat and change pieces of information as you go, using the AI, completing things like that. Now, every time we ask you a specific question about the experience that you've got and the core piece of information, that actually will train the system to make sure that this best practice will be super consistent. Now, the data set of best practice is huge. It's literally every piece of information and fine-tuned down. So when we're asking about, did you find what you want? It's more about understanding, how can we advance that, or what format are you looking for? How can we ask and answer in a better way? The speed and accuracy are always going to be worked on. As you know, this is pre-release. You're the first people to see this as a group, and we're going to continue to increase more document types. And another thing which we're really working on at the moment is the next dream is how can we essentially have Waybook AI not just creating documents, but using your documents to share that knowledge with you. So that's in the future, the very near future. We're moving very fast, as I'm sure you are aware. One final piece. So Waybook AI really will help you get from 0 to kind of 1, and a lot of that will actually kind of shave a lot of time off. Now, we, as you know, have Waybook process consultants. So even if with that and the templates and everything, you still just want to fast forward and get that best practice really tailored to your business, please do let us know. We have some phenomenal process experts. We are a systematization business, but we're primarily a tech business. So all of our consultants are done at exceptionally good value. So you'll be able to just get assigned one of our consultants. They'll work through a process with you to extract that knowledge from your heads, your team's heads, and put that into a way that is a clear and consistent single source of truth. So please do get in touch with us if you wanted to work with one of our consultants. Because we have so many templates and AI and everything, the efficiency of our consultants are absolutely incredible. So please don't forget that. And then the final thing, answering every question that I'm sure you've got. Can I get access? Can I get early access to Waybook AI? Yes, you can. Now, we're going to ask you just a couple of questions to get your hands on Waybook AI. Now, the way to do it is if you just start a chat on Waybook, you know that support button, you can just click, or you can email support@waybook.com. And we would love for you to answer these 3 questions. So what is the thing that you love most about Waybook and the value that it's had on you and the business? Number 2, what is the one thing that you think would make Waybook 10 times more valuable to you? And number 3, the biggest challenge you're facing in your business. Now, if you can share that in, we will, of course, give you early access, immediate access. You'll have it in your account. You know where it is. The reason why we'd love to just exchange it for these questions is because we love you folks. We love hearing more about your business. The more we know about you, the more we can continue to work on Waybook to make your lives and your businesses much more efficient. Now, for those of you who've been all the way to the end of one of our webinars before, I can see we've lost 3 people, but that's what happens when I monologue for 50 minutes. We want to do a swag giveaway. I actually saw someone in a Waybook sweater 2 days ago out in the wild. I didn't know them, and it warmed my heart. So I'd love to get more of our Waybook swag out to some people there. Elle has put people's names into a random name generator. So if we can have a drum roll, and Elle, if you could please pop a name in the chat so we can see who's going to get the swag for the day. Random swag. Yes, James. Look, people have been quiet all the time. Now people are coming out for the swag, aren't they? So I don't know. Elle, I'm sure you're here we go. Sarah Schumacher. Congratulations, Sarah. You win the swag giveaway for the Waybook AI webinar. We'll get in touch with you, give you some credit for the swag store. Congratulations to Sarah. Now we are just going to, oh nice, that's exactly what you want to hear. Sarah's never won anything. Amazing. Well, oh, love that. Well you'll be oh, Sarah's just messaging us, I can see, but she said she's never won anything. She's a huge fan of the platform and she loves it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us all the way to the end here. I'm going to stay on for another couple of minutes to answer some questions. I can see that most questions that have been asked have been answered. Right, the one from Uma, which has just come up, is can you put those questions up? Absolutely. So these are the three things. You can screenshot, take a picture, whatever you want. The most important thing there is we just want to learn more about you. So if you can actually just share what you love, what you think will make it better, and any business challenges you're facing, or just share more about you. We just want to get to know you. Okay, scrolling up now for other questions. Okay, so Kuma just said the visitors unrelated to employee. Okay, I think that's been answered. So a lot of people have asked for the recording. Yes. I hope you've had a good time. I'm almost certain that no one else will want to watch me talk to myself and you for 50 minutes, but we will of course send the recording and the slides. We'll make it available online so you can get people to watch along. If you send that email into customer success now, they'll get that on your account. We also will have lots of help-centered documents, lots more things. And the one thing we would love so much is if you're doing something and it blows your mind, please record it and send it to us or post it somewhere. We love to see this out in the wild because it really just inspires other people to get organized. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, thank you so much for your time and attention today. I've been Mike Bander, one of the co-founders here at Waybook. I'd like to say a massive thank you to all of the Waybook team. They're true stars and we really love what we're doing here. We really love working with you and helping you get your business on the same page so you can actually scale faster. You can invest the time where you want to invest it, empower your team to do their very best work and really achieve what you want to do from growing your business. We thank you so much for everything you do. We look forward to seeing you at the next one. Have an amazing day. Take care now. Bye-bye.